Good evening, everyone. I'm not as frustrated as your school bus drivers, but I'm getting there. I've spent a lot of time at a few of your campuses in the last week. I had to deal with an issue with a student being jumped, and then the student who was jumped being put up for expulsion in this district. I've had to deal with a student from a powder puff gang during a move in a game being suspended, home suspension, on campus suspension, being placed on the no activities list. And my question to good evening, everyone. I'm not as frustrated as your school bus drivers, but I'm getting there. I've spent a lot of time at a few of your campuses in the last week. I had to deal with an issue with a student being jumped, and then the student who was jumped being put up for expulsion in this district. I've had to deal with a student from a powder puff gang during a move in a game being suspended, home suspension, on campus suspension, being placed on the no activities list. And my question to you, since I'm listening to you talk about bullying prevention, what happens when the bullies are your staff, your administrators, your teachers? What recourse do families in this community have when their children are being targeted unwarrantedly? Thank goodness someone gave them my phone number. Because if I would not have shown up, you would have another Black student expelled out of this district because your administrators don't know how to investigate. They don't ask the right questions. They don't get all the information. They jump to conclusions, and we're left to pick up the pieces of our children who are crying, trying to figure out why adults don't like them. I'm gonna need y'all to pull it together. What more do you want us in the community to do? Because I'm tired of picking up the pieces broken by your administrators and your teachers. So now I want to know what the consequences are going to be.
We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. Get rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. Get rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. Get rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. Get rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here, cause we been here. Get rid of us now. And you know that we won't ever go, so you do what you want. We in here for life. That's it.
Hey, 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 happy Monday, party people. Welcome back to another episode of Black versus the Board of Education. My name is Miss Laureen, and we have a treat for you today because we're going to come off the cuff. There's been a lot of things happening here in our school district where we reside and others around the way. But before we get started, I don't know where Matt is, but he going to get on here pretty soon. Oh, there he is. Hey there, hey. Let's go ahead and start with our young ladies. Go ahead and introduce yourselves so we can get the party started. Let's start with you, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I am a 15-year-old sophomore in the Southern California area.
Perfect. Welcome back to the party, Miss Jada. Go ahead and introduce yourself, love bug.
Hi, guys. My name is Jada, and I am a homeschool junior in the Sacramento area.
Perfect. And, you know, the hostess, the co-hostess with the mostest, Matthew Grady, go ahead and say what's up. And you on mute, and I know you tried to howl at us. We missed it.
I'm always howling at mute, and that's like a signature for me or something. Difficulties. I am Matt M16 Grady, born and raised native of Durham, North Carolina. based out of Los Angeles County now and all of California. And I am keeping my eyes on you folks because I don't know who raised you.
I don't know who raised them either. So last week, we've had a lot go on since last week. We want to give a shout out to both Miss Trinity and Miss Anaya, who were both part of their homecoming royalty, the royal court. They didn't get the queen or whatever that's called, but we still want to acknowledge them for even being selected to participate in that. So that's a shout out for them. We do have a story, and before I push play on it, I do want you all to know that one of the parents is in the building. She will have her camera off because she has been working and she's not sleeping because of what has happened to her daughter on the school campus. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then we'll come back and we'll get the conversation started. Check this out.
Still don't get it.
Charles and Heather Washington say they still don't understand what exactly their daughter Ariana is accused of doing in the locker room at Albiani Middle School.
She's fun-loving, high-spirited.
The school never called them to explain why. As discipline, the 12-year-old was banned from changing there for gym class and forced to change in the bathroom instead.
But on Tuesday this week, with the locker room off limits and the bathroom filled with other students, Ariana felt that she had no choice but to change outside on the blacktop in front of the locker room.
A lot of tears. But she has expressed just anxiety in general.
You've gone from a star student, which you're still a star, but you're unnecessarily being harassed, and you're not used to that. And then as a father, you can't even imagine how I feel.
Why is that justification to punitively handle her, not speak to her parents?
Laureen Pryor with the Black Youth Leadership Project says Black students at Elk Grove Unified often face steeper punishments for the same infractions. A February report suspending our future singles out the district for suspending more Black students than any other district in California.
For the longest time, we've been being told that there's not a problem, that they're doing so much better, that, the numbers are not the real numbers, but, people lie, numbers don't.
Is the district aware of the report, and have you made changes?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely recognized and, first of all, accept the challenges that it takes to address disproportionate discipline in our schools. And we do definitely acknowledge the 2018-19 data.
But Ariana's parents can't help but feel this has something to do with their daughter's race.
What I see is there's no empathy for the Black child. There's no empathy, and I think that's a big word.
All right. So Miss Heather is here. I'm gonna pull her up just real quick. There's a couple things that I want to point out with this before we get Miss Heather's reaction to what we just played. Number one, it seems to be this district's MO that they want to talk about. This is 2018-2019 numbers. That is the last full year pre-COVID. That is the most recent data available to us, so they need to knock it off. Number two, when I hear him ask, are you making changes? There was no answer. And so that tells me that they are not making changes. And number three, the thing that's most egregious to me is that they don't even talk about what we're talking about right now. That's happening in 2021. So with that said, let me go ahead and bring Miss Heather on. Miss Heather, you can hear us, yes?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So we met a couple weeks ago, last week? I don't even know because it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah,
but
it's been a lot because everything's been happening every other day, it seems like, at the school. So
yeah. And so can you tell us about your baby? Just tell us about her. What type of baby girl is she?
Sure. So my daughter's 12, seventh grader. She is a principal's list and honor roll student. She started her own business in the 5th grade and still maintains that today.
And what business is that? What business is it?
It's Rain's Candles and Soaps. So she's the CEO and maker and production line all in one.
Let's go. Okay.
Yeah. She's also a child that's already identified her major in college. She wants to do interior design. And her number one college choice, and we've already visited the campus, that's how dedicated she is Howard University. So we're on the road.
We heard that was the real HU. I mean, we had some students going back and forth about it, but we're hearing that that's the real HU. So she's determined, she's focused, and so with this thing that has happened on her school campus, can you kind of just, I know the news story kind of glossed over it, but can you kind of tell us what went on or the history behind what's been going on with your daughter?
Yes. So back in August, on an unknown date, and the reason it's unknown is because we never received any communication from the school. My daughter was pulled into the VP's office because an alleged 8th grader, again alleged because no paperwork or documentation of this exists, advised my daughter looked at her while they were changing in the locker room. So my daughter, being a new 7th grader on campus, you know, just didn't understand why she was in there, but she stood up for herself, let them know she was in the locker room changing for PE. My daughter's 5'6" and 12, so she's like the big homie of her friends. So she was helping block one of her friends who was a little bit more shy, you know, because she was having to change. So my daughter advised the VP of that. However, at that time, the VP had her locker moved away from her friend and put her in front of the PE teacher's locker room office. So discipline number one that we weren't advised of. Ariana came home and told us about it, but we didn't think anything of it because we never got anything from the school. And Ariana, just being new to the campus, didn't want her mom and dad up at the campus seeing what was going on. So that was back in August. So it started there. And then on Monday, September 20th, I received a phone call from Ariana. She was distraught and crying because the same VP pulled her into the office again because the same alleged 8th grader said she was looking around the locker room. So this whole time, my daughter's under the impression she's done something wrong. We immediately are at the school within 10 minutes because we live, you know, just a couple minutes away, and my husband's retired, and then I work graveyard. So luckily we were available. Mm-hmm. We sat with the VP and the principal. They did apologize verbally for not advising us back in August, but they kept saying, don't worry, it was nothing major and just a minor incident. She just needs to be in and out of the locker room.
Okay. So let me stop you there. Because I have a question. Both Jada and Melissa, you guys have taken PE. You guys have been in a locker room. Is it uncommon for you to look around the locker room as you're changing?
No, it's just not. Like, what do you like? I don't know. It just seems so weird. Like, if I want to have a conversation with somebody, am I just supposed to stare in my locker the whole time where they're talking to me? Like, it's just weird. It's just weird to just not have eyes. I mean, I don't know. It's just.
Melissa, what you think?
It's not uncommon. You're in surroundings, you're gonna just look around, and it's not like in a weird way. Like Jada said, if you're having a conversation, you're gonna look to that person. You're not gonna stare in front of you because I can't look around at where I am. There's no like bad intentions. It's not like that.
And it's interesting that you use the word bad intentions, because this is a 12-year-old we're talking about. I'm assuming junior high is the first time you guys had to change in a locker room. Can you kind of tell us as young ladies what that's like to have to change in front of people, period, you know, as you're going into a new school? Can you kind of paint the picture for us? What is that like? What are you thinking?
Okay, so I had been homeschooled basically all the way up until middle school. I was 12 in the 7th grade, so the same age as Ariana, going into a public school and having to change in the locker room for the first time. So she was blocking her friend. I would have been that friend because I'm not used to changing in front of other people. So it's a new environment that you're going into, not just as someone coming out of being homeschooled, but going into junior high. everything is new and different.
Jada, what do you think?
I remember being a 7th grader, and when the PE teacher's like, "Hi, yes, this is the locker rooms. This is where you guys are all gonna change." You hear people be like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe we have to change." And then the teacher talks about, "Don't be immature about it. You all have the same thing. It's not like you guys are naked. You guys have clothes on. You're changing from one outfit to another. It's not that deep." So it's just, I just think it's common maturity. It's like, okay, we got to change. And if you're uncomfortable about it, I don't know. I don't know.
Matt, I see you. Are you in deep thought? What's going on with you? What are you?
I'm confused. I'm genuinely confused. Okay. I noticed you asked him a young lady standpoint, but I'm going to tell you a kid standpoint, because we've all been kids before. Locker rooms ain't just get invented. So I can only imagine my child, who's been homeschooled all her life, going to the gym and doing these few things.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looking at just that could be one thing. It's a teenage girl. She's looking around, probably, and then also she sees a younger girl that maybe not feel comfortable. Come here, let me block you. Or just, I don't see one denominator that makes somebody say, "That girl's looking at me." And then a grown person say, "She was? Well, we're going to put her into this. We're going to put her into this. There's going to be no more kid looking in the locker rooms." So it's just like, who raised you? And are you that ignorant, or are you that conniving that you're looking for any reason to get rid of any black boy or girl who even sniffs the wrong way? Like the second they enrolled, you didn't want them there. Oh my God. To you HBCUs out there, can we invest into some black middle and high school campuses, please? I know it ain't no HBCs like HBCUs over here, but hey, look, y'all see what's going on the West Coast. Who raised these people, man?
My thoughts about it are, if the person who said that, "Oh yeah, that girl was looking around," if that made her uncomfortable, why did they remove the girl who was looking around from the situation? If it makes you uncomfortable, let's help you out. Let's remove you from an uncomfortable environment.
Isn't she the one who went and told that she felt uncomfortable about something?
Yeah,
allegedly. So the same student back in August, and then allegedly the same student on September 20th. But we don't know. Because no paperwork's been received and no mediation ever occurred between the two students.
So it's not even. We don't even know for sure if a student said something then.
Facts.
Woo!
100%. And it's not the fact that there's no paperwork on this. There's no paperwork of her ever being called to the office. There's no paperwork of any discipline going forward. All this baby girl knows is she's being moved from the locker room, and then she's being Miss Heather, go to Monday, and then we'll come on, because I'm about to jump ahead. So let's go back to Monday.
Wouldn't you contact a parent as soon as you feel like there's something inappropriate, so-called?
You would think, but
so back in August, no phone call, no email from the school. Monday, September 20th, just to catch up, Ariana was pulled in again because of the same alleged 8th grader. The VP banned her from the locker room and changed her school schedule. No phone call or email again from the school, but her father and I, as soon as we got the phone call from our daughter, we were at the school. So that's where
they never called you, right? They never called you.
And I got phone logs. I got all the documentation, just because they tried to say that in the meeting they called us. I was like, no, you didn't. Here's my phone.
So she was pulled back in on the 20th. She calls you, and then you guys go up to the school.
Correct.
Okay. So what happened next?
So at that time, we sat with the VP who enacted all the discipline, and the principal sat in on the meeting. We didn't know it was the principal at first because no introduction was made. We were put under the impression Ariana violated some policy. We were just there to learn, what happened. And at that time, they referenced the verbal directive given by the VP in August. Ariana failed to get in and out of the locker room timely. And so we at that We at that time thought something like maybe she didn't follow a syllabus or something like that, but we didn't have it in front of us. But in any case, we advised the punishment of being banned from the locker room as well as the schedule change was unacceptable. It wasn't something we were accepting regardless. In that meeting, they wouldn't overturn their decision. They actually ended the meeting saying they had other things to get to. We tried to stand our ground, stay in there and prolong the meeting, which at that time, when they knew we weren't leaving, they scheduled a meeting for Wednesday, September 22nd. So that night, my husband and I read through all the district information and the instructions on our PE syllabus regarding locker room behavior. Based on the PE syllabus, she has to be in and out of the locker room within 5 minutes. Otherwise, she would get a tardy on her record. We pulled up her record, no tardies since the beginning of the school year. And there was nothing in the PE syllabus saying that their eyes had to be on the ground or anything like that. So I'll pause there just because this is a long story. So that's where we're at as of Monday night.
So you said that they refused to overturn their discipline. So what exactly was she being disciplined for?
At that time, they were telling us a verbal directive back in August to be in and out of the locker room. That's what we were told.
And so in their thinking, they think that this 12-year-old was moving about life, trying to recall every conversation she had in August to then be on these. Anyway, so she
but
wasn't
it gets
tardy.
better.
It gets
but
better.
It gets better.
Okay. You about to have Matt jump out of his skin.
So
Matt
not
is over
only
there. Go ahead.
So not only did she have no tardies on her record, so we have actual documentation. She's followed the rules, paper documentation. But of course, we asked our daughter, what happened? What was your side of the story? And my daughter has asthma. So come to find out, at the time of this 8th grader's alleged accusation, my daughter was actually with the PE teacher, still in PE clothes, because she was having an asthma attack that required her inhaler. So the PE teacher was actually with her at the time of this second allegation. So, so now we have paper documentation. She was actually with her teacher, which lets you know that they didn't do any investigation or this is completely fabricated at this point. Right. So that's where we're at as parents.
So since she violated so-called policies, what about these VP and them violating child endangerment? What about that? What about the policies of reporting any so-called heinous act or any inappropriate act, alleged or true? What happened to those policies? Look at all the policies they're breaking. And because there's no record or recollection of anything, it allows me to speculate that either the child or even the child's parent could have come to the school and saw the new girl and said, I don't want her in class with my kid. And someone may have shown a favoritism. That we got something better to do.
Yeah.
Has a hidden agenda to it, and it has something deeper than just that girl. There's somebody involved. There's some favoritism, and that's oh my God.
Yeah. So we posed some of those questions, which I'll get to because something even worse happened the following day. So before I get into that, I'll pause, Laureen, because I don't want to just keep talking if you need me to pause.
No, I just think that, Matt has a point, right? Because they're talking about this 12-year-old and what she allegedly violated, but then they're not following any policies and procedures that they have on books to actually make sure this situation is mitigated in a way that makes sense. So she's 12. If she's done something, wouldn't it be advantageous for them to kind of let her know what she's done? If she's done something, if it's a behavior they're trying to correct, shouldn't I know what it is that you're accusing me of doing before I can adjust my behavior?
It's sad that they got a nerve to look at a lot of us like, we can do this. They don't have that much of a support system. Ain't nobody gonna come. Ain't nobody gonna stand no ground, especially for our Black women.
Yeah, and girls, because we talking about girls right now.
And girls.
Yes, Melissa, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, and while we're talking about policies, what about no bullying? Because it sounds like this 8th grade girl is picking on this 7th grade girl who, in the second allegation, is with a teacher, meaning that it's pretty much fabricated. There's basically proof that it didn't happen. So where's that policy coming into play?
Right, and these
That's
are
a great
girls, but
question.
they are being cultivated. I just will correct myself. They are being cultivated, and whatever they learn between 6 and 18 is going to be pretty much their paradigm.
Mm.
What my thing about this is that this is not her first, the 8th grader's first, but her second allegation towards the same 7th grader, which means you would have to be looking at her to notice her looking at other people. Why are your eyes on her for not one time,
Ooh.
but the second time? You are obsessed. Why are you obsessed? 2, you're an 8th grader, which means you know what it's like to be a 7th grader in this new environment. You know, you've never done this before, and you're like Melissa said, you're basically bullying her. Like, don't act brand new. Like, you haven't felt a little uncomfortable at first as a 7th grader, changing in front of a bunch of people. Like, it's a new environment. Like, I don't.
So you think it's
and we teach
unreasonable.
our daughter anyway to keep her head on a swivel. So no matter what environment she's in, she's supposed to look around to make sure her safety's number one.
It's
So
a thin line
100%.
between jealousy and admiration.
100%. So that was Monday. So take us to Tuesday. What happened Tuesday?
sure. So after my husband and I read through, like I said, all the district information in her PE syllabus, on Tuesday morning at 7:55, I sent an email to the VP and the principal advising that there should be no disciplinary action based on the rules dictated in her PE syllabus and not violating any Elk Grove written policy or procedure. And then I further demanded that they needed to reverse their decision immediately regarding her being banned from the locker room and the class schedule change. They never responded. So then we come to 11:21 that same morning, or that same day. I received a phone call from my daughter. She was completely hysterical because she was denied access to the locker room. So then she walked to the bathroom to change. She's trying to problem solve here. The bathroom was full, and my daughter was unable to enter the bathroom because of it being full with girls. And remember, this is also an honor roll student who doesn't want to be late to class. So she went back to the locker room where she was once again denied access. And in order to not be late for PE and not be docked her PE credit for that day, she had to change outside on the blacktop in public view for PE. So I'll pause there because there's a lot more.
My problem. It's annoying and it's frustrating that you have to put this girl in an uncomfortable situation to make the other person comfortable. That's my problem with this. Because like I had said before, if the girl was uncomfortable, you remove that single person from the uncomfortable environment. Like, it's just common sense. If you're uncomfortable, let me help you out. Not if you're uncomfortable, let me remove this other girl, make her uncomfortable, and let's just not care about her because you're what we're focused on. If she was what you're worried about, you would use common sense and actually find a solution. This is just doing extra. It's extra. It's a lot of extra.
I do commend her for being a 7th grader, but having the patience and sense to still attempt to, like you said, keep her head on a swivel. Because the way this game is, young ladies and boys, it is not designed for you to succeed. The way a lot of people do it. There is a design for you to succeed, but there are people who design things for you not to. And with that being said, it's just they are clearly showing favoritism to someone, be it through the parent, the student, or whatever. I don't want to see no sign at that school that says we equally care about the children's success and safety, because the opposite is happening. Who raised Elk Lodge? Grove.
Elk Lodge. He called it Elk Lodge.
Because it's just some higher ups in there trying to run the show and not even caring about the kids. So I call it the Elk Lodge. No disrespect to my traveling men out there. Don't come get me.
humorous, not in like, oh, this is a funny situation, but it's humorous to see that their logic within the situation is it's inappropriate for a young lady who's changing around other young ladies to have her eyes just not in front of her at some times, but it's okay for her to change out in the blacktop in front of public view. Like, so it's inappropriate for her to be in the locker room in a safer place. But oh, okay. Okay.
Well, what I'm wondering about the locker room. So when she went back to the locker room, could it be assumed that most of the girls were already out? So if she was going back after trying to problem solve, the other times, and she was going back to try to change into her clothes, why wasn't she given enough grace to just go in and change? Like, especially if this alleged 8th grader had already come out. Like, I'm just trying to figure out the punitive nature.
And the 8th grader doesn't have PE until after the 7th grader, so the 8th grader is not even there. The 8th grader and my daughter
I don't
only
understand.
only cross. Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand.
Exactly.
Wait,
yeah, exactly.
So this girl's not even in the same time block for the PE
No.
class?
Yeah, so my daughter essentially is changing into regular clothes from PE when the 8th graders are coming in changing for PE. So when my daughter has to change for PE, the 8th grader's not even in there.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this because I was holding back. I am curious. I am curious too, as when it started, what ethnic group and type of person was in there first, and then when they switched the schedule, where is it? Because the obvious, what I think is obvious, we got a whole nother problem. Like you trying to do some your type needs to shower and change over there, and we don't want you over here. I am kind of afraid.
Are you saying segregation?
I don't want to say that because I don't want to say that, and I don't want to believe that. But this is who raised these people, man.
Well, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. So your question is
to say something like that to regulate. If this was a little, I'm gonna go ahead and just be direct. If this was a little white girl who went home, I don't like the girl that's in the locker room, and I don't like the way she looks at me. I just don't like how she looks at me. Frankly, I'm gonna go tell the principal because they know my aunt or my mom. It goes that deep, but it should not carry over into the school or the educational system.
Well, this is the educational system, and
they'd be mad when we pull all our kids out and start building our own school.
I'm a proponent for that, but anyway, I can only do what I can with my one. But I'm a proponent for that because I don't believe everybody deserves access to our children. Everybody is not going to care for them in the way that they need to be cared for, and this is a prime example of just a young lady trying to, do what she normally does, get on through the routine of her school day, and it's disrupted. And then to find out that the girl ain't even in the same damn PE class at the same time, I'm confused now.
Not even in the same class or grade.
Like, I'm just confused. It just doesn't make sense to me. And they have to make it make sense. And just so everybody knows, we did reach out now twice to try to sit down with the administration over at Albiani Middle School and also the district. And we've not gotten any response. So that's why the news report came out. And if they continue to ignore us, we'll just ratchet up a little bit. But Heather, go back to Tuesday, because after y'all got to
it
campus,
ain't over yet.
I know.
Well, I got more before we're even on campus.
Okay.
So she's calling us, upset, letting us know she just had to change outside. The PE teacher then subsequently comes up to her and tells her she's too close to the locker room, and her phone was confiscated and she was escorted to the office. And then her friend started calling me at that point just of what was happening. No phone call again received, no written communication from the school, and there's no record in the online portal Synergy that this ever happened again. So there's no record of her being pulled back up to the office or her having to change outside. But because our daughter called us, again, my husband and I were back up at the school within like 15 minutes. Like I jumped out of a dental chair and zoomed to the school. It gets worse. So my husband and I are at the school, demanding to be seen by the principal. The office assistant calls the principal over their handheld radios because it's about mid-morning lunchtime. We have to wait about 15 to 20 minutes for the principal to come in. But when she comes into the office, she walked in with an armed Elk Grove police officer. Luckily, sadly, when I say luckily, my husband.
Wait. Stop. Because I'm looking at people's faces and the young lady's about to jump out of their seats. It's not even Matt right now. I'm watching their faces as you're talking. Melissa.
So much just happened in like 2 minutes. Hold on. So she gets her phone confiscated because she's too close to the locker room. No one cares about the fact that she's changing outside. They just care that she's too close to the locker room that she was banned for no reason. And then there's a police officer that comes to greet the parents. That makes no sense. It shows that the system does not care about the well-being of Black students at all. They see us as threats and they see us as smaller than them that they have to control and they have to belittle and make us feel bad. There was nothing right about that situation at all.
Jada's shaking her head still.
I'm too flabbergasted to have any thought or opinion on this right now. It's just too much for no reason. It's too much. It's too much. And like Melissa said, this is a prime example of how little the school cares about Black students. This is a prime example. And then they'd be like, oh, I don't understand. What we treat everybody equal. Do you? Because instead of, like Melissa said, focusing on the fact that she's changing outside, oh no, you're too close to the locker room. Would you want me to change in the middle of the blacktop? Like, what are you telling me? Like, it's disrespectful. That was disrespectful. That was so disrespectful. Oh my gosh.
Matt, I see you. I don't know what's going on over there, but I think I'm looking at a bunch of emotion on your face. So why don't you tell me about that?
As a man, you want to be a protector. You really do. And it makes you so mad because what you're capable of doing is the same thing that'll get them kids taken away from us. And it's fucking hard. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. I'm crying because there's so much I want to do, and I know every other man would and come in and do. And they expect us not to have a support system. They expect there to be no man in sight. And the second he show up, I'm telling you, man, they ready. They want to keep you unarmed, young ladies. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's not in your best interest. I really suggest that we all start homeschooling and we teach our children. We work back on their mental health, their financial literacy, knowing that their power of emotions and vibrational frequencies can change their reality, and their color, their skin, and their circumstances ain't got nothing to do with how they treating y'all. That's how somebody's treating you. That's not what your worth is.
That's right.
And I'm tired of it. I was even fooled into thinking that that's all right until I got old enough to understand that too. So yeah. I'm sick of it. I'm sick. And some of us want to walk like Martin Luther King. Some of us want to bust your head like Malcolm X. And we're running out of answers.
And I think that you bring up a good point, Matt, because Charles, the father in the situation, of course he wants to be a protector. Of course, in that situation, it could have been worse. And I'm going to let Heather finish her story. But these are things that our families are having to deal with and having to reconcile our feelings about what it is that we're seeing and what's transpiring and how our children are being handled. And it just doesn't affect one student and one family. The more of us that are aware of it, if we lack empathy, we will let this stuff go on. But if we're sick and tired of being doggone sick and tired, we're going to act. And, that's just where I'm at with it. I don't have time to babysit people and their feelings, their tears, their emotions when they're in the wrong. I don't care how the administration feels, how the district feels. What I care about is Ariana. And I want her to be healthy, happy, and whole. That's it. That's non-negotiable. And so we as a community of folks, we have to kind of assume the position. If we're not going to take our babies up out of this system, we got to get ready to fight.
Right.
We just have to.
Our generation, I can at least say with my generation, a lot of us throughout school and our peers, we used to pick on each other and be like, you police, you this or that. And it's funny because a lot of us need to, and this is one reason why I love and gravitated to the Black Youth Leadership Program so much. It's because instead of us breaking down or fighting in the typical ways, learning the legal system, learning the jargon, learning how to use your emotion, control it, be patient, and being leaders and attacking it and starting to get people to hold accountability without turning to what they try to label you as, and that's wild, uneducated, and unaware. That is like, I can't stress it enough to guys, keep doing that and do not back down, because that's the only way they're going to listen is when they're exposed and held accountable for, and the right way is consistently over and over and over.
Right. And shout out to Miss Tawana for real. Like they want to keep our kids feeling isolated and alone. And that's how it's been for so long. Our kids would come home and they would tell us that these folks are doing something to them. And we would err on the side of the teacher. And we have to get to the point where we listen to our kids and then we make them show us what our kids have done. Because it's not a coincidence that this stuff is happening more often to our children. It's not a coincidence. These folks want to subjugate and control.
Send them into the world thinking that unjust things is okay to happen to them.
Yeah.
And it ain't happening this time, because we're going to teach our kids.
That's right. That's right. Miss Heather, do you want to finish? Go ahead and finish out Tuesday, because you stopped at, she walked in with an armed Elk Grove police officer.
Yeah, actual police officer. So, that could have gone left real quick, but luckily, you never know God's blessings. But my husband's a Kappa. The officer also was a Kappa. So they immediately recognized each other. And the Elk Grove police officer realized what the principal was doing, because it was clear that she just brought him in as an intimidation tactic. He immediately excused himself from the office. So, he left wanting no part in what she was trying to do. So, we had a 20-minute meeting with the principal at that point. It went round and round. She had no empathy for Ariana. She just kept saying she could have waited for the bathroom. But then again, she would have been docked if she did that. And then when we kept pushing her and pressuring her to tell us what written policy Ariana violated, she kept just referencing this verbal directive, and we wouldn't let it down. So we just kept interrupting her. Nope. What's your written policy? Nope. What's your written policy? Nope. What's your written policy? At that time, she became so visibly frustrated that she then proceeded to fabricate a statement saying that our daughter made a sexual comment to this alleged 8th grader back in August. And so then at that point, she just sexualized my daughter and questioned her sexual orientation. At that point, we were done, because she pulled that, I don't want to cuss because we still got a lot of process to go. But it was a blatant fabricated lie, because just the day prior, mind you, again, they apologized and told us it was a minor, not a major incident back in August. So now you have a principal not only decimated her by having to have her change outside, but now you just assassinated her character. So it didn't stop there, because I know I don't want to take up too much more time. We went to the district. They did overturn her being banned from the locker room and her schedule change, because the next day we got a call from her counselor advising us. Well, I'll clarify that. We didn't get a call. Ariana got called to the office again. She was panicking. She called me. I called the school saying, don't talk to my daughter. I don't even want you alone with her. So they let me know when I called that her schedule was being changed. Then the following day, so now we're on Thursday, September 23rd, the VP and her counselor came into Ariana's English class, walked around to make their presence known, walked by Ariana, and exited the classroom. This hadn't been done all school year until now. So now we got intimidation and retaliatory behavior. And then the following Monday, the principal did the same thing in a different class of Ariana's, came and sat in the back of the classroom, just providing more emotional trauma to Ari, because now she can't, she's not able to focus in class with the principal in there. Again, that hadn't been done all year until all of this escalated with us being involved as parents. And here we are. And so now we're on call every day in case something happens, but we are transferring Ariana to a new school next Monday. So that's where we're at.
I really would press charges.
It's a step in the process.
My child could have had an asthma attack, harassment, defamation of character, stress, what is it called? Pain and stress.
Pain and suffering.
Just need to get smacked because who raised you? I don't know if that's a charge. Need to be asked who raised you publicly.
Well, you can go ahead and ask them because
who raised you.
Hey, we need to figure that out. We need to find out because it just does not make sense. So now you've kind of upended her life, right? At 12 years old, this is a major change coming off of being isolated with the beginning of the pandemic. We're still in the midst of a pandemic, right? These kids are just now going back to campus. And, I remember 5 days a week, we want our kids in school. Our kids, and what I tell you, I don't know if I subscribe to that because our children's experience in school was harsh before we had this pandemic. And so with the pandemic, you can just about imagine they were going to try to go back to business as usual. Business as usual does not and has not worked for our children. So now you have this 12-year-old whose life is being upended because the adults don't know how to adult. The adults don't know how to go sit their ass down somewhere and leave a baby alone. And instead of them answering for what they've done, they've decided to kind of hide, and they'll say, oh, I didn't get your email. That's cool because I got it. I sent it. I can pull it out of my sent items. So when we do get the opportunity, which, we're going to take an opportunity tomorrow at the school board to kind of lay some things out. Because at no time will we ever tolerate this type of behavior going towards our children. And I'm so excited that the family has decided that they are tired and they don't want to put up with this type of treatment of their child. Because that's where it starts. It's the parents. It starts with the parents. The parents have more power than they think they do. And when we start to organize our parents and we decide that we're sick of it, and as tax-paying citizens, we deserve for our children to be treated like everybody else. That means the same little grace you give little Tommy and little Timmy, Keisha need that too. And we expect nothing less. So, how is Ariana doing now, Heather? How's she doing?
Well, she's a 12-year-old, again, trying to process everything. I should also note we've received letters from current and past teachers about her character, and even her current teacher saddened that she's leaving the school. But, she's going to a school where she has no friends yet. I'm sure she'll make some, but just having to go through that experience, it's uprooting her sleeping pattern because that school is on the other side of town. And it's just, sadly, you talk about just discrimination going through the generations.
How
My
many of those
husband
teachers
shared,
stood up to the VP?
You said what?
How many of those teachers said something to the VP like, "Why are you doing this?" But they
That's a
wrote
good
little,
question.
but they wrote little letters home. We
Yeah.
want to just send a little
So
letter, let us take ourselves off of it. But who stood up in that classroom and said, "You're not going to do this. I love all my students. Stop, or I'm
That's
quitting."
a good question.
and we don't know how much they know either, other than the news story. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. But
It's traumatic. She's 12, so just like my husband shared, he knows the stories of his grandmother, facing discrimination. He has his mother's stories. My daughter heard his stories and even been with him, during some police encounters where, unfortunate events happen because of his color. And now it's happening to her. So it's generational trauma, at this point. Not only for our family, I mean, it's Black families across America. And it's just at what point, we shared with, at one point we shared with Ariana, of course, mommy and daddy are fighting for you. But we're also fighting for the Arianas coming behind you,
That's right.
So.
Yeah. And I just want to ask you this, Heather, because as a mother of a Black child, did you think that your child would ever have to deal with something like this? Was this something that you thought about as a white parent?
Definitely. I think any white person who's raising a child of any other color should know that our experiences as white women are going to be vastly different than the experiences of our child. And just us knowing that lets you know there's a problem.
Yeah.
And then with this specific principal and the school, we were already aware of an incident involving a Black child a couple of years prior. It's just shocking when it happens, but you're always prepared. But it's just when it's your child and the emotions get involved, it's just more of a shock value. But now, once we were over that initial shock, we can't believe we're in this office. Now it's, feet to the pavement. We ride and we got family.
That's right.
We going all the way. So, but sadly, like I said, as a white woman, I knew her life experiences would be different. I work in a field where I have to stand up for the Black voice as a white woman, because there's no one else standing up for them sometimes in my occupation. And I'm always going to be 100% me. Jobs can come and go, but your morals and values make you who you are. So,
that's right.
But my husband and I are a team in this, and we know it's going to be a long process, just with tomorrow being, the presentation before the board, and then legal action, which we know can take years. So, but we're ready.
And I think that it's important to kind of underscore that you guys are a team, and it's just beautiful to see you guys work in tandem to be the voice of your daughter and to protect her, and not allow these folks to have their way with her. I just want to commend both of you, because sometimes, our parents, they get weary and they, they see that something is coming down the pipeline and they just want to get it over with so they can get on their life. And you guys just said, nah, we about to buckle up and we go ride this out. So, I want to just commend you guys for that, because a lot of times as an advocate, we do the heavy lifting. We try to mitigate the situation. And then when it's over, the families go on their way. But you guys have been lock and step, and, you sent me so much information, and you dot your I's and cross your T's. You make sure that you are fully present for your daughter. And that is so beautiful to see. So I just wanted to, commend you guys for that. And then I also wanted to underscore the point that if they would have known who your baby was, they wouldn't have bothered her. How ridiculous is it that they brought law enforcement to meet y'all, and y'all work in the field of law enforcement. How did that like that had to kind of deflate her bubble in a sense?
Well, and it just shows you her lack of common sense too. Like, but a Black man who is in law enforcement still has a whole different journey than a white man in law enforcement. So
100%,
that's why that we're,
100%.
that's why, like I said earlier, God works in ways. And luckily for not only the Elk Grove Police Department, but for my husband, that interaction went smoothly, because like I said, Black men in law enforcement still receive unjust treatment and racial profile every day. A badge doesn't
Right.
change the skin color. So
like it, when you just said that, it made me think of like the lady they were calling Barbecue Becky, right? So we know how these interactions have gone in the past. So with that mindset, she fully weaponized the police in that in this encounter. And you're right, it could have went a number of ways. And I just think that it's a misuse of police resources, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Because these people are out of control. You do not get to harm my child and then turn around and act like somebody is coming to do something to you unjustly. Like, cut it out. Cut it out. You instigated this whole situation, and you gonna roll in with the police? Would they have done that if both you and your husband were white?
No.
well, we wouldn't have even been here in the first place.
Well, there you go. I mean, but we have to be honest about that, right? She fully weaponized the police in this situation where they mishandled your child. They mistreated your child. I would dare say they emotionally abused your child. And then they got the nerve to show up with law enforcement as if y'all had broken the law. I'm so confused. I'm not confused. I'm clear. I'm clear on what that was. And it's unfortunate that on top of everything else, you mistreat my child. I come up there to ask you why you didn't go through the adults, and you meet me with police? How dare you? And if he would not have known that officer, what would have happened? What were they hoping to see happen? Were they trying to arrest your husband for coming to check on his daughter that they mistreated and abused? Like, we got to have these type of conversations, because like what were they trying to get out of that?
Same thing they're trying to do to her.
Miss,
to incriminate herself.
Say that again,
Miss.
Same thing they're trying to do to her, agitate her.
Agitate the baby girl?
Either there or the man or the mother to act in a way that they try to label. And the fact that they came and y'all showed up and y'all showed out the way you did in the proper way, major.
Well, and nothing is more feared in America than the Black man. So,
especially when he's calm.
Especially when he's calm. You better say that again. Especially when he's calm, because you don't know what he's thinking. Wow. Well, y'all, we have run out of time for today. Heather, thank you so much for coming on and getting your story out. We appreciate it. We will be with you tomorrow at the school board meeting. At least I know I will. We'll be at the school board meeting with you and your family, and we gonna do what we do the way that we do it. And it's, like I told y'all last time, I'm about that Ice Cube life. No Vaseline.
I'll be there in spirit unless you got to call the cavalry, and then you'll see.
Well, you know what? I think you still may
you
be
could
able
zoom
to get
in.
a public. You could get a public comment in, and you could zoom in to the board meeting.
Okay.
So if you, Melissa, if you guys want to give a comment and come and support Miss Little Ariana, we would love to hear your perspective and your voice. It's just as important as anybody else's.
What time tomorrow?
6 o'clock.
In the evening.
6 o'clock in the evening.
I'm taking off just so I can attend that.
Come on now.
It's worth more than the money.
Let's go. So we're going to show up and show out for this family. We invite everybody else who can to come and meet us at the board member meeting or call in, because this family needs our support, and we don't want it to be us next. We don't want to get involved when it happens to us. We want to be proactive, and we want to support our families as they're going through things right now. So with that, remember to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Black versus the Board of Education. Also, visit our student store where you can find all of our gear. Melissa has on the BVBOE shirt. And with that, we're going to hit y'all with the wave. We'll see you next week. I will be broadcasting live from where am I going to be next week? Ohio. So I will see y'all next week. Take care. Don't hurt nobody. And even if you got to hurt them, don't stay there too long.